Hi, I'm Jenny Trumpa.
And I'm Toño Gonzalez.
And we're the co-hosts of Mindset and Trading Podcast, where we bring guests who help us master our mindset in trading, inspire us to create financial freedom, and teach us how to compound our money as a day trader. And today on the podcast, we are very happy to have with us Teresa Guthrie and Jon Baker. So welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Welcome back, Teresa. Welcome, Jon, to the show.
Yes, so grateful to have both of you. And we're super excited to hear all about what you're going to be sharing with us today. But before we dive into the content, Teresa, you've been on the show before. And could you just give listeners, for any new listeners out there, just a little brief description of yourself, who you are, and what you do for a living?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me back on the show. I appreciate it. So my name's Teresa Guthrie, and I've been trading for almost 3 years now. And I'm just so happy to be able to be here and tell you a little bit about our story and what we've created for you guys.
We're excited to hear it for sure. And then Jon, also for you, could you just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about how you also met.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, right? Teresa mentioned that her family was on some world travel, and the same with our family. My wife and I had sort of pre-tired from our corporate careers and took our 3 kids and sold everything and started to travel. And I guess it was maybe early 2021, we were getting ready to head back out on another adventure. And some COVID restrictions kept us from going to where we wanted to go originally. And we ended up in Mexico. And it just so happens to be the same town that Teresa was visiting at the time. Right, Teresa?
That's right. Yeah, you were supposed to be in Ecuador and we were supposed to be in Panama. And so really our paths should have never crossed.
It was quite serendipitous, I think, is the word that we actually even met each other.
Yeah.
I like it. And so the reason why we're bringing you two together is because you've created this special project, which we haven't really even revealed yet. We've just said, for any of those listeners out there that listened last time to Teresa, we said we had a big surprise that was coming up. And so now this is what we're doing, is we're revealing this surprise and sort of how the two of you met, what it is that you've created, and we're super excited to reveal what it is that you've created. So let's continue on a little bit with the story. So the two of you met and...
Yeah, so we met, and like many folks who meet Teresa, they quickly find out what she does in the trading world, and I was no different. I had some background. I guess I could call myself a self-directed investor. So I'm not someone that never had a stock market account or anything like that. So I had an idea of what she was talking about when she mentioned that she was a trader. But looking back now, I really had no clue. What was in my mind that a day trader does was probably very different than what Teresa actually does. And as our daughters became close friends, as they were in a gymnastics class together, we started to talk about this trading thing, and it certainly piqued my interest, right, Teresa?
Yeah, but for a very short period of time, because I don't know how long it was. I mean, when we met, you guys only had, I think, 3 weeks left in Mexico before you were planning to leave for Europe. And so, I mean, we must have only been a couple weeks into that before you were like, why don't you automate this? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to automate this. And then we kind of just went from there.
Yeah. So Teresa got me hooked, like a lot of folks that she talks to on trading. I went through her course that she has, studied quite a bit and joined her morning calls and did everything that she told me to do. And I guess, unfortunately or fortunately, I was just like everybody else, right? I was a terrible mindset trader. I was entering good trades, but then not letting them run. I was calling her up and being excited about capturing 5 points on US 30. And she would ask me why I exited that trade. And I would say, I don't know. So it didn't take me very long to realize that I was just like everyone else that Teresa was talking about on her calls, which was struggling to kind of manage that trade after we'd identified a good entry. And something clicked for me because the part of the story that I haven't shared yet is that while I enjoyed a wonderful corporate career in management, my formal education is in computer programming. So when I went to college, what seems like a long time ago, I learned to program. And even more serendipitously, the computer language that I happened to learn back in college is the exact same language that MT5 uses to program trading robots.
Wow. So this is a very serendipitous story so far. I like hearing how all of this is going. It's kind of like, you've got this sort of like problem, which is mindset and taking the correct trades and then holding those trades for a long enough period of time, and really trusting the process. But a lot of traders, that's exactly why we've created this podcast, struggle with the psychology of trading. And so, especially when we're new, and it's and to have had you become interested in this, you two serendipitously meet, even when your paths were supposed to be, in completely different parts of the world, but you serendipitously meet. And now your daughters become best friends. They're doing gymnastics together. And then you're interested in, you've got this knowledge, and it happens to be the same computer language that the trading platform is on. So that's just, it's pretty amazing story so far. So tell us more. What is it that happened in the next few steps?
Well, I'm not sure what Teresa thought when I first mentioned that, hey, Teresa, what if we just made a computer do this?
Well, it's kind of funny because you weren't the first person that said that to me. Like, I had done a presentation at my house back in Sherwood Park before we ever left Canada, where I had done a training and there's a bunch of people hanging around after, and a group of guys were like, oh, like you should build a bot, or you should automate this. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I would if I knew how. And, and they were kind of like, oh, like, well, we could do it, or I could do it, or I know how, but no one actually did anything. And part of the funny thing about Jon and I's story really is that I actually didn't know that he started making Janie until he had already started making Janie. He was like, I got a surprise for you. And they were actually gone. Like, to me, one of the strangest things about this story to me is that from when the girls met, we only had 3 weeks to forge this relationship. And then they were leaving to go to Europe, and they were supposed to be in Europe for the next 3 months. And somehow, miraculously, we became close enough friends that they changed their travel plans to only go to Europe for 5 or 6 weeks and then come back and spend another couple months with us in Mexico, which is, when you think about it, like, it just seems actually kind of insane, right? Like, you just met these people, and like now you've changed your whole travel plans for the rest of, your vacation to come back to the same place and to be together again. So it was just, and then it was a big surprise to me that you even started coding, because a lot of people had said to me like, oh, I can do that, or I know how, but you actually, Jon is by far the hardest worker that I've ever met in my entire life. The most consistent and dedicated to work. And so he had already put in some time working on this before I even knew about it.
When we left for Europe, right, I was still joining your trading calls. I can remember even the time zone changes. I would wake up when we did Europe. We only stayed in each city for 3 to 5 days. So it was a struggle just remembering what time zone we were in to join your call. But that's where the frustration of mindset really set in for me. Is I didn't have you coming over to our place with the girls, visiting each other to talk to each day. I was, joining your calls and getting frustrated, and yeah, something clicked for me at that point and said, hey, why don't you just, let's search YouTube for how to create a trading robot. And Janie was born in that moment. I can tell you, she was born in Berlin. That's where we were visiting at the time. And yeah, I think it was just a few short weeks later, we were back in Mexico. I pulled you aside, Teresa, and said, "Let me show you something."
I love it.
Yeah, and it was amazing.
I love it. So it feels like Janie needs to have like if she ever had a last name, like a German last name and maybe a Mexican middle name or something. I know she's very international.
Very.
Wow, that's
Very
amazing.
much.
So Teresa, what did you think when Jon showed this to you? What were your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I was blown away by the fact that, I don't want to date you, Jon, but it had been a while since you had been in school. And so it was just,
True.
I couldn't believe that he knew the language of MT5, like that happened to be the language that he went to school and learned. I mean, that was just astounding to me that he knew that. And then honestly, we just really ran with it. I mean, we spent a lot of hours on his patio, and I would just talk him through, and he would tell me, he's like, if you can explain it, I can code it. And so I would always used to say sentences to him like, I don't know if it's possible, but if we could blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Teresa, I've already told you, if you can explain it to me, then I can do it. And it just grew from there. And we put in, hours of work sitting together of me watching the charts and telling him what I was seeing, and him programming away, telling her to recognize what I see in the market and what I look for. And it just came together.
It does sound like the more that I hear the two of you and this relationship that you forged, and also the way that the two of you met, it does seem extremely serendipitous, all of it. And Teresa, I know from working with you that you are extremely detailed in your communication, and it seems like you've been paired up with the perfect person who says, just explain it to me like you would do. And if there's a way that you can explain it, I can capture it. So it sounds like the most perfect working relationship. And so this is probably, I'm guessing last spring is about where we are. Is that right in the story? The creation of
Yes,
Janie.
you guys came back from Europe like mid-March back to Mexico.
Yep. And so what has happened since then? What has the progression been? What have you discovered about Janie since she's been built? How has she been improving? What are you discovering with her functionality?
Okay, so we always joke about, like, every time we release a new version of Janie, we always say, Janie got so smart this week. And when we think back to, like, where Janie was at when we were still in Mexico together in April, before we left to go to the States, I mean, it's crazy when we think back to those versions of Janie and how little she knew back then, but really how still awesome she was compared to what we can find on the market. Like, when we look for expert advisors that compare to what we've built, they all seem very simplistic. And even at that time, she seemed to already be more robust than what was out there. And now, I mean, I just honestly, I can't even believe how big and how smart she's gotten and what she can do.
So let's actually talk about that. What is Janie? What is it that she can do? How does she help with your trades? Please explain, all of the functionalities of her.
Okay, so Janie is an expert advisor on MT5. So MT5 desktop, to be clear. And so she is essentially a trade helper. So the only thing really that she doesn't do for you is actually take the trade. So you have to press buy or sell. But she does all the things that we do in the morning before my trading call starts. She calculates your lot size for you, but for every individual trade in real time lot sizing, she puts where your stop loss is going to be. And then once you take a trade, she takes over managing it for you, which from what I've seen over the last 3 years, that's the most difficult part for people. Learning the entries and learning the exits of trading is honestly not that hard. But managing your relationship with money and your mindset and your psychology is a lot more difficult. And so once you're in a trade, she takes over. There's multiple different modes that you can run her in where she trails her stop loss either very aggressively like I do in a scalping mode, or there's more of an intraday scalping mode, or you can just take a trade, set your stop loss, set your take profit, and just let it run. There's a variety of different features that you can choose. But basically, once you've taken the trade, she takes over managing that trade for you so that you are not making emotional decisions based on, oh, like I can't handle being in drawdown, or, oh, look, I'm 5 points in profit. I'm going to close it. I was actually trading with my mom this morning, and I could see how stressed out she was in a trade. We were very slightly in drawdown for a few minutes. And I actually reached over beside me to her, and I took her phone out of her hand and laid her phone down on the table in front of her because her fingers were just like flickering above the buttons, like she wanted to do something, but there was no exit. There was nothing to do yet. She just needed to wait. And so, yeah, I mean, basically she will just help people manage their trades once they're in them and help those trades achieve their maximum potential.
Absolutely incredible. Yes.
Janie is my best attempt at taking Teresa and bottling her up inside a computer. So I remember wishing, oh, I took this trade. I wish I could just have Teresa manage it for me. And that's sort of how Janie was built, is what are the things that Teresa and her group of traders do on a consistent basis to identify those exits on trades and just let her manage it versus me worrying about my mindset.
Yeah, and just to be very transparent, like, so she trades like me and I take losses, right? Like I still take losses. It's not like I win every trade. If I win every trade, I'd be like a trillionaire. And like there'd be no such thing as risk management because you would just bet your whole account on every trade if you always knew you were going to win. So Janie, like you still will have your stop loss get hit. But the beautiful thing is that she won't make a reckless decision to move her stop loss and get herself in a worse situation. Or if there's an exit, she won't choose emotionally to not take that exit. She will exit if you have that exit turned on. So it's not necessarily that she can never lose and she's going to win every trade. It's that she'll manage the trades better than a human would.
Very nice. Very nice. And so, is Janie for everyone, or who is the ideal person to use Janie and to have Janie as a helper?
So eventually Janie could be for everyone in this, but you would have to operate Janie. You do need to understand my trading strategy because the settings themselves are named after my entries and exits. So like you wouldn't know, if it's flashing up on the screen and telling you like, bullish engulfing, boss candle, potential entry. If you don't know what that is, you wouldn't necessarily know what to do with that information. So I do believe that practically anyone can learn how to trade. I mean, I'm sure there's some limiting factors out there, but for the most part, I believe it's a skill set that anyone can learn. And so if they had taken the time to learn my strategy, then yes, I think Janie could be for everybody. Awesome.
And then your strategy also, just for the new listeners out there, you are with currently the IM Academy, and you're also do your education calls on a strategy that you have created called Boss Candle. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So when I first started to learn how to trade, that was through IM Academy, which you can kind of catch up on that story on the first episode of the podcast that I was interviewed on. But yes, so over the years of learning, I basically took a lot of different things that I learned from different educators and basically packaged them together into a strategy that I call Boss Candle. And that's the strategy that Janie is trained how to execute on.
So why is Janie a girl?
Okay, so Janie has to be a girl because most men, so over the 3 years, I would say almost all men that I've gotten started trading, they all go through what I call a cowboy phase, where they just decide that they're just going to throw some money into a live account and they're sure that they're just going to like double it on their first day. And then they have to call their wives and tell them that they accidentally lost their tax savings or whatever the case was. So, Just typically, though, from what I've seen over the last, I guess, almost 3 years now, women are better at managing trades than men. Not to say that men can't learn it or do it, but just naturally, I would say that they tend to be, they tend to follow the rules better, to be more disciplined, and less risky or cowboy-like. It's actually kind of funny, John. Do you remember the night that we were like tossing around name ideas? And somehow G.I. Jane and Janie came up, and we really never made an official decision that was that was her name. Really, it just stuck. We never really talked about it again, I don't think.
Yeah, I knew she needed a name, because it was, we were talking about this project as if it's a person. So I knew that we needed a name. And yeah, I mean, when we talked about G.I. Jane and this idea that, this is a robot, and it's almost, to use the word, militaristic, right? It always does the same thing, right? Follows orders, compared to cowboy traders who may go out on their own and do so. She really is, to your point, Teresa, she really is the opposite of that cowboy trader. She does what she's told, and she does it every single time, right? The power of your PC, right? Janie can look at 1,000 charts and make 1,000 decisions in the time it takes us to blink an eye, right? And this is our opportunity to take advantage of that type of computing power.
Yeah.
She sounds absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that those who are listening would love to gain access to Janie. And so can you let us know how that might be possible? What phase are you all in the development process? What are the next steps so that the public can also gain access to Janie?
Yes. So just actually yesterday, we closed our first round of applications to be a beta customer for Janie. So we're currently finishing interview processes with the first applicants that have made it to the second phase of that. And so for September, those first people will go through a beta period where we're testing, like making sure that our onboarding materials are good, and our training and videos and things like that get people set up properly. And then the next availability of Janie will actually be at our retreat in Mexico, which Jon will be at. So I can't think of a better opportunity for people to really get to know, the brain behind Janie and understand how she works. But yeah, that'll be the next opportunity to purchase Janie. And I'm hopeful that will be the last round of beta customers, and that hopefully she'll just be available to the public after that. But we can't obviously say that for sure until we see how the first couple of phases go.
Fantastic. Super fantastic. And can I ask also, what is it that you hope Janie can do for those who purchase her? What is it that you hope that they'll find that she helps with, as a day trader?
For those of you that listened to my first podcast, you would know already that my family, we've been traveling for the last, I don't know, we haven't had a house for like 16 months or so. We've just been on the road. And as fun as it's been, one thing I would say is that it's also been a little bit lonely. And even our time coming back to Canada wasn't as fun as I would have expected it to be. And the main reason for that is that most of our friends and family still have jobs. And so during the day when I'm like, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. I want to go here this weekend, want to go there this weekend. Not everyone can go. And so my goal this whole time, the reason that I've been teaching people how to trade, is that I want people to be independent traders so that they can achieve for themselves location, time, and financial freedom. I'm just hoping that this is just a gift that we can provide people that can help them achieve what we've been able to achieve from trading.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that so much. Jon, do you have any final thoughts on that?
I think so many great products come out of the origin of somebody building something that they wanted for themselves, and Janie's no different, right? Janie started off as something for me, right? Because I suffered from the same mindset issues that everyone else did. And so yeah, when you start something with the idea that I'm not building this to mass market or things like that, right? Janie was built with a very specific goal in mind, which was to make folks better traders of Teresa's boss candle strategy. So yeah, I hope that everyone gets out of it the same that I was hoping to get out of it, which is, being able to live that lifestyle that Teresa mentioned, but to be able to do it with a much freer mindset, knowing that Janie's Janie's got your back.
How much would you say in percentage? It's hard to say, but how much this helps somebody to improve their trading with this tool?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to quantify. Every person's going to be different. So like there's people that are fear-based traders and they can't even get themselves to press a button. And in that case, Janie honestly might not help that person very much, because here they still have to make the decision to enter the trade. Then there's people that they take the trade and they are too emotional when they're in the trade. If it's in the negative, they just kind of freak out and panic and close the trade. Janie will help them stay in the trade and give them the patience to let the trade play out properly. Or there's people that as soon as a trade jumps up a very little amount into profit, they're scared to lose that amount. They don't want it to be taken away from them. So they close their trades too early. And so for them, Janie will let the trade, let them stay in the trade patiently and let it play out more to its full potential. So it'll really depend on what each person struggles with their trading mindset, how she helps them personally.
Many times I put the analogy of for people to go faster in something, like this escalator is not the escalator, but like the one that is on the airport at the airports that helps you go faster. I don't know how you call it, but whatever, let's call it walking escalator. And sometimes the tools become that, like you can be in one of those and it will move you. Like in this case, Janie is going to help you move, but also if you do the work to know how to trade first, that technical part, but also the emotional part, if you keep working on that emotional part and how you react with money, with trading, with all those situations, then you will do that walk plus that tool and it will get you further. So I think many things come to my mind, and one is like first to congratulate you guys for taking the really the opportunity, because in all areas of life I have the feeling that people say that it's like I can do that, but I could do that, but but you don't do it. It's like, oh, I could do 20 push-ups and be fitter. It's like, well, then just do them, right? And it's like, but we don't do the work sometimes. So, Jon, you took I can do that, and then you put the work. Now it's there. Now it's in a different phase, and also those phases are beautiful parts of the processes of life, I think. And in this case of a professional part, also personal and professional, that is mixed in this case, because you do Janie, and it's like, okay, now what else can we prove? How can we make this better for people? And so it's going to be different probably phases to improve that. Now you're bringing people in to get to know how it works, and then later, the retreat is coming, so people can come there and then ask you guys questions about that, and then you will. I'm very excited also for the retreat, for people to come and get the most out of it, because it's going to be an immersive place for them to ask those questions directly with you both, but with the whole strategy that you have been teaching, Teresa. And so, I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I think it's great. I think another major, a point about Janie that I actually never realized while we were making her is I think she'll actually be very good at teaching people how to trade, because a brand new person, they can turn her on and they can see, when an entry happens, then it flashes up and says potential entry and tells them the name of the entry. And then if they take the trade and then let's say she exits the trade, then they can look and see like, oh, that was called a LC exit, and oh, what happened there? Oh, this happened, right? Like, I never actually realized that she might be sort of like a training wheels for people of learning how to trade. I don't know, Jon, did you think that she would be so useful of teaching people?
I hadn't thought that, but when I look back to my own journey, remember, I started coding, Janie, really before I knew anything, right, in trading, right? I literally took your course and was jumping on your call. I'm usually a quick learner at most things, but when I look back at what I really knew when I started this project, it was nothing, right? So even for me, coding the project has been a wonderful education piece, right? There'll be times where I message Teresa and say, hey, what are the rules for this entry? Here's what I think they are. And she'll remind me, oh, but you forgot this one thing about an LC exit or something like that. So yeah, I do agree that a newer trader who is operating Janie will have a great sense of being able to learn if they just simply ask that question, why did Janie do that? As they're doing that trade, and they'll quickly understand what the rules are, and they'll always know that Janie's following the rules.
Well, or if they try to take a trade that breaks the rules, she'll actually stop them from taking a trade as well. It'll actually, if they press buy and there's maybe an EMA in the way, it'll actually abort the trade for them and help them avoid taking crappy trades.
Oh my God.
Exactly. It sounds like a dream for sure.
And I'm sure, right, Teresa, just as you mentioned how silly we think Janie was a year ago when we think back to her, I can imagine another year of development and a year of feedback from users and what Janie will be then. I'm wondering, will we look back at Janie and look back at this podcast and say, I can't believe how much more she knows now than she did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be a great journey.
I think like there's so many people that can benefit from this. And I just think that sometimes when there's an opportunity, and that opportunity was for some people, but the only thing that happened was that they didn't know about it, that is kind of like a shame, right? It's like it's a pity. It's like I'm from Mexico, so it's una lástima. It's like a pity. It's like, well, they didn't know about this. So the goal of this podcast is to put that out there for people to know, So if you're a listener, if you know somebody that is within these parameters, like they know your strategy, like let them know, because this is happening. We are in the first phase. Like some people are testing this, but that is going to be on the retreat next October. And they can come and then literally learn as much as possible. But if people don't get to know that this exists, that will be not good. So yeah, like we want this to reach all that group, and then future people that can benefit from this. And the ultimate goal, honestly, in my opinion, is not just developing the wealth in our lives and the financial freedom, but really, what we want to do with that? I am like spending that time with people, like having time to do whatever you want, the experiences that you want, the traveling that you want. I think that sometimes when we have that clear goal, it helps us to be like, that is what I want. It's not just that I want to be trading 2 hours a day and see numbers and spend cool time with other people in a call, but it's these other elements, and sometimes that is very motivating. And people can immerse in this and then go towards those bigger goals that can be very different for everybody.
Absolutely. And it feels that that's exactly what trading allows us to do, is to create that financial freedom. And just as you described so eloquently earlier, Tonio, with the walking escalator, how it's a tool and it will help you get there quicker. And I think that's what we all desire, is to have that financial freedom, that time freedom, and to really, I know it is for me, is to be able to serve back to my community as well with that additional, time freedom and travel and travel with my kids and allow them to see beautiful places in the world and expand their mind. And And, you know, I know all of us have different visions for ourselves, but it's really incredible what the two of you have dedicated so much time to create and have been extremely passionate about creating on a very consistent and disciplined basis. I cannot wait to meet Janie. I cannot wait to have her in my pocket and to, you know, add her into my tool bag and my toolkit of what it is that I've already learned with you, Teresa, over the last few months with trading, and to see how it just benefits not only myself, but benefits the community that we're working in, the community of traders that we have, that we sit with every single morning, and, you know, and have been inviting onto this call. And I'm just excited already for the transformational stories that I know we're going to be bringing onto this call in the future as well. And I look forward to all of it. One last question for all of you. What is it that you would like people to take away from this conversation today?
I would just like people to know that there's a tool available that can help them overcome their mindset, psychological struggles with trading, and that that if you persisted this long and you've been trying to learn the skill and you've been, you know, maybe you haven't got the results that you've got, that I believe that this can help you get the results that you've been working for.
And I hope people realize that it was not something created by some random person who knows nothing about, you know, Teresa and her strategy, but it was created by a student of hers. You know, Teresa mentioned earlier when we first started this, you know, we looked at, you know, what expert advisors are out there. And I remember telling her, oh, these are so simple, right? Like people spend time making these and other people rely on them. I can't believe it. So to be able to provide something that I think is an awesome value to Teresa's sphere of folks that work with her, I'm pretty stoked about. I can't wait to meet everybody again at the retreat. I remember I was at the retreat in was it April that you had the retreat?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I remember meeting people back there, and I remember I was sitting there on my laptop coding Janie. Based on things I would hear you say, Teresa, or questions that
Isn't that awesome?
I would hear students ask you. I would make notes and say, "Oh, here's a problem that a real life person just asked about. How do I put that into code so that person never has to worry about that issue again?" You know, calculating lot size, right? We spent so much time on people helping them calculate their lot size, and to be able to automate that for them on a daily basis, just that one thing is so valuable. So I'm just excited to see everyone again at the retreat and be able to talk about Janie this time.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that you were there. Nobody knew who you were. I couldn't really introduce you because nobody knew what we were doing. Like, it's like just like kind of this random guy. You didn't stay at the retreat center. You weren't there for any meals. You just came for the morning sessions. And so people are like, who's this guy? Like, and now everyone finally gets to know who you are this time.
So, Teresa, Janie, if you could describe now, some people already know about the retreat. They heard the other podcast episodes, but what would you say is the retreat, and what will they take out of this? And especially now with Janie.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question, Tonio. So yes, we do. We have a retreat in October in Mexico, in beautiful Tulum, Mexico on Riviera Maya. And it's happening October 10th through the 14th. We are having 4 nights, 5 days of education and adventures and community, where we will be going over the mindset and working on our mindset in trading. And so we will have mindful meditations in the morning along with movement sessions. Then we jump into trading with Teresa. Early in the mornings, we'll trade live in the financial markets. And we'll have additional educators there who will be joining us. Business, working on human relationships and also business building, as well as Jon's going to be there to help us, and Teresa with working with Janie, if that's something that we want to also add into our toolkit. But it's an amazing retreat. We have nutritious food and the beautiful Riviera Maya of Mexico, jumping in cenotes, going to the beach, doing lots of things, and then really building those friendships for life that when we leave the retreat, we are still working together with one another in this beautiful, tight-knit community, supporting one another on the calls and really celebrating one another's journeys with the successes, and the ups and the downs. Through all of it, we're there for one another, which I think is one of the most important components with trading, is to have that support system. So you'll have an opportunity to really meet people one-on-one. We do have a bonus retreat happening from the 16th through the 20th. It's not really advertised on our website, but it is available for anyone who would like to have a much, much smaller, more intimate retreat, where we'll have a little bit more personalized one-on-one time with Teresa. And if you'd like to know about that, you'll just send a message out to us. But yes, that is the retreat in a nutshell.
So I think there will be people that will want to access this Janie tool. So where can we guide them or direct them?
So for right now, we just closed the applications on the first round of beta testers. And so the next opportunity to purchase Janie will be at the retreat. And then going forward from there, there will be, Facebook pages and groups and, things like that people can join on more of like a public basis. But right now we're still in, I guess, what you would call like pre-launch or beta testing for her. But people can definitely just reach out to me directly, so they can find me on Facebook, or they can email me, or they can follow my YouTube channel, which I believe that Jenny will have like all the links to in the descriptions of the podcast, I believe.
That's correct. Yes. Is there anything else that any of us would like to add as a final thought to this podcast?
What I would say is, like people talk about the law of attraction or the secret or whatever terms people want to use for basically attracting what you want to your life. And I just want people to know how true that is, because it's you don't know exactly how something's going to happen, but if you want something to happen, somehow it just comes to you, and you don't have to work so hard to get it. You can just put it out there that this is what I want to create, and then somehow, some way, it finds a way to happen. Like I wasn't hiring a coder. I didn't have ads up looking for a coder, but I kind of had, I had this thought, or this idea had been put into my mind of, maybe somehow one day I can make this, but I don't know how. And just somehow we just found each other. And it's really incredible. And so I want people to apply that to their own trading, whatever it is that they want, to just really just put it out there and then keep working. Like you can't just sit around and like wait for it to happen, right? You got to put in the work, and you've got to, like, Jon would never know that I traded, and we would never have built Janie if I never talked to him about that I traded, right? Like if I didn't share what I was doing with him. So yeah, just try to be purposeful of what you're trying to attract to your life.
I love that. That is such a great note to leave on. It's so true. And actually, Tonio and I were having a conversation about that yesterday. And it is our minds and our thoughts are so incredibly powerful. And what we're putting into our minds, what we're putting into our thoughts, the things that we're speaking to ourselves can manifest, and they do manifest. And just like you said, Teresa, you don't know how it's going to happen. And it can be so completely unconventional and not the way that you ever would have thought that it would have happened in your life, but yet it appears. And so the other part of that is receiving those gifts, right? Really being able to receive. So just allowing that goodness into your life and knowing that you're worthy of it, and knowing that you also, are here to live a great life, and whatever that looks like. And so I think that's just a really, really great note to end on. Thank you for sharing.
Jon, last comments, last thoughts.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing what you're doing to let people know that mindset in trading is just as important as the technical piece, right? As Teresa mentioned, it's super doable to learn the technical bits about how to trade, but it is a little more difficult, a little more emotional to keep things in check, especially when you're dealing with money. And that's exactly why Janie was born.
So cool. So this podcast, thank you so much, Jon. Thank you, Teresa. This podcast is called Mindset and Trading, and the whole purpose is to help people for that, to improve that, and to the ultimate goal, in my opinion, is also to have the life you want. So I think I encourage people to live the life they want now and enjoy that. And now these tools helps to go to the next levels. Like trading, it's a vehicle to also accomplish that in your life. And here we have shared a lot of those tools, and for people to know, again, the calls that Teresa does, contact her to see how is it possible for you to attend to some of them, or whatever you guys check with her. Her channel, catch you on the Pip side, right? A YouTube channel, so you can check that. The retreat, that is such an immersive opportunity for people to come and really improve their mindset in trading. And now this beautiful tool called Janie, that it really helps towards having a better trading experience and achieve your goals for financial freedom and live the life you really want.
Yes, thank you all so much. We really appreciated having you here today. Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Jon, and thank you to all of our listeners out here. Please remember, you can find the retreat information at www.jennitrumpa, JENNITRUMPA.net/Pip Catchers Retreat. You'll find all the information you need about the trading and mindset retreat happening in October the 10th through the 14th, 2022 in Tulum, Mexico. We'll also have great educators there, Teresa Guthrie. We'll have holistic health coach Janie Trumpa, along with additional special guests, and including Jon Baker, the creator of Janie. So we will leave all of the information on how you can find Teresa in the comments. But we also invite you to subscribe and share this content with at least one other person who you would also like to see compound their wealth, become financially free, and live a life they love by design. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for coming, and have a great day, everybody.